You have some young people that have excelled at every level. Innately just had a better talent. You can cultivate and coach and develop and improve a skill set that they have, and they had a predisposition. And you can have a guy that has all those measurables and those sizes, and he can be not be a good player. Whereas you can have an individual who isn't that, can play at that level. Or you can have all of the above, the talent, the size, the ability, and those are the people sometimes who are your Hall of Fame guys, But then you can have Hall of Fame people, if it's in athletics or in business, that have worked and prepared and have developed themselves into a champion. But I do think certain things are innate. I think you're from a leadership standpoint, I know we talk about developing leadership and developing leaders, but I think young people too, I think some are more comfortable with that.
Welcome to the Fred Opie Show, where we help students, parents, and coaches give their best effort on and off the field. Everybody and their brother who's interested in playing college sports wants to know the school you're interested in going to, what is the coach looking for? Today we have the opportunity to listen to a person who has been doing this for over 2 decades, both at the collegiate and professional level. This is Reggie Terry, Director of Football Operations at Boston College. Reggie Terry is from Hempstead, Long Island. His very first organized sport was lacrosse. He played lacrosse throughout his youth years, elementary, middle school, and he played 4 years lacrosse in high school. So he's been around the game and he understands. The concepts of evaluating talent are parallel no matter what the sports are. And he is going to share with you, the student athlete, as well as you, the parent who's going to eavesdrop on this conversation, what the real deal is.
I remember watching lacrosse, as you know, is big on Long Island. Yeah. And I actually played lacrosse prior to I played football. So the coaches at that time, we would go to NCAA games. They would have them at Rutgers all the time. We had alumnus at Army and different places. So I remember watching you play, scoring that goal behind your back on national TV. It's like, man, I was just getting into lacrosse, and that was my initial exposure to Syracuse. And, as you know, Syracuse is a national power in lacrosse and won, a gang of national championships. So it just felt like a good fit, and I don't regret my decision one bit.
What was your major at Syracuse in your undergraduate GPA?
I majored in history and education, so I was a dual major. But by the time I finished, I was about a 2.9 cumulative average guy.
What do you do now?
Well, in my role as assistant AD of football operations and player personnel at Boston College, the management and the execution of the program I facilitate with the head coach and the athletic director. This is my 4th year at Boston College, but prior to here, I worked for the Arizona Cardinals in the football administration role as a director of football administration that dealt with personnel, salary cap, day-to-day operations, the draft, evaluation. And then prior to that, I was at Syracuse University in a very similar role.
So what is the recipe for you all to find great prospects? And how do you find that kid and then vet them?
We want to do a great job in a 5-hour driving radius of our campus initially. Okay. And we're going to vet and determine. We have coaches that are assigned to different areas throughout the country, and especially in state. We want to make sure that we accurately identify the players, their high school coaches, what they do. You evaluate their tape, and you build a book of knowledge, if you will, on these young men. And it's from being in the schools, talking to the school personnel, the staff, the teachers. You're acquiring information to make good decisions. The football component of it is you see that on tape. You evaluate that on a young man's film.
Now, what about the tapes, these highlight tapes I see a lot of players putting together?
Yep.
Is that the stuff you all looking at, or are you looking at something else?
Well, you look at it initially, but to get a firm evaluation, you want to watch game film in its entirety. You can make an evaluation on a player solely on a highlight tape, if you didn't have any other information that he's good enough to play. Now, all of the other variables that you want to understand about what makes that young man who he is, you need a little more digging. But on pure ability, a highlight tape can do it. And
it can do it. So it's not a bad investment.
It's not a bad investment, but at the same time, really with Huddle and all the technology that's out there today.
Huddle? What's Huddle?
Huddle is an online video application where a lot of high schools and colleges will use to share film and to share video with one another. It's a fee. You can sign up. Not that I'm pitching Huddle, but student athletes can put and develop their own highlight tapes based on everything. So the technology in video today, I was done digitally. Get the tape from their coach and then go and select the games. The plays off from those games and make their own.
Okay. So you really don't need to have somebody else make it.
You really don't. And you can work with your high school coach or your high school AD. My son did his. He did a couple of them, and I didn't even have to get involved, even though I know how to do it, or I have guys on staff who could do it.
Yeah, it's not that hard.
It's not that hard. So to invest, I'm going to get with this agency and say, hey, can you cut the tape up and take the good plays from the bad plays, and then you can patch it and then send it out? If you can get that done and not pay a fee, it's just getting a little uncomfortable and just talking and talking with some coaches or other kids, and you can, it doesn't have to be an expense.
If you can play, somebody's going to find you. Is that true?
To a degree. I'll just use my younger brother in that regard. My younger brother was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to Temple University late in his senior year. 6'2", 205 pounds, and a lot of schools bypassed him because they didn't really know what he would be and where he would go, but he had tools and talent. So Temple says, okay, you know what? We think you have enough ability, where we want to bring you in. He took a couple visits. He goes to Temple and he redshirts, and he's a 4-year starter.
4-year starter.
A 4-year starter.
And how much bigger did he get from his senior in high school?
He went from, he walked on campus, weighed 210 pounds. And by the time he left, he was 6'2", 210 pounds. By the time he left, he was 6'3", 235. He goes to Canada and wins a Grey Cup in Hamilton.
Wow. The next year.
Plays for a year, comes back down.
And his starter?
A starter, played at a high level, comes back down, works out for the Chiefs. He gets to the last cut, he gets cut. Seattle picks him up, and he plays for Seattle for about 4 years.
Special teams,
backup linebacker, started a handful of games as an outside linebacker.
Wow!
So he played at a high level, for a good 4 or 5 years.
But you're saying is a kid like that.
And it happens more often than not.
Really?
In the National Football League. If you were to evaluate the rosters, you hear all the guys from the big schools, but a good third, if not more, are guys from obscure places that weren't the 5-star, 4-star recruits that go on and are basically the blue-collar backbone of the National Football League. It happens every year. Marlon Greenwood was from Freeport, Long Island. He was a soccer player. Never really played football until his junior year. So his coach, Russ Sullivan, who's still a head coach at Freeport, says, well, I think I might have a guy that we think who can play. He really hasn't played football. So we get him up. He comes up to camp, going into his senior year, football camp. And football camp on campuses, allow players to work with coaches hands-on, and they can go through, they can get to know a guy intimately, as he's a player, as a person. So football camp to us was always a great method of evaluation. So Marlon comes up and he goes through it. He wasn't really recruited at all, really.
Wow.
Not at all, really. Some schools might have picked up late, but what he was though, what you saw he wrestled in New York State at a very high level, a state champion. You saw his athleticism and who he was. He comes, he redshirts, give him a scholarship. He goes on and starts for 4 years, and he's a 3rd-round pick, drafted by the Dolphins. Then he went to Houston Texans, but he had about a 7 or 8 year career.
Got his degree?
Got his degree.
You guys look like geniuses.
Yeah, and it worked out. And he was a wonderful player. Matt Ryan didn't come out of high school out of PA with Penn State and University of Pittsburgh and all these schools that were after him. Not highly recruited at all. He comes to Boston College and develops. He doesn't really start until late in his redshirt sophomore year and then into his junior and senior year, developed. It was a scout team player, and came along and, this past season he won the MVP of the National Football League. But he would tell you that he was a work in progress and he developed over time, So the reality of it is regardless of the rating systems and what these recruiting services think about you, if they know of you or if they don't, or if you're still in development, you're still growing, the reality of it is you have an opportunity to improve and to get better based on the work that you put in.
Say that part again. Because there's a lot of talent out there that hasn't figured out the other part of the equation.
Oh, it's no question, and that's very true. Some of the most talented players aren't playing. The hardest workers, the kids that are committed to the process of working and have a higher work capacity, that have great character, that will persevere through adversity, can make up for lesser talent. But those character attributes will not only propel you through football, but can propel you through life. When I look back on my high school experience, I just wish I could, you want to recreate that, because we had this singleness of purpose where there was total buy-in by everybody and you expected to win and winning over time. From 7th grade to my senior year, I lost 2 games in 6 years.
If it's a recipe, what was the recipe in Hempstead?
The recipe, we had tremendous talent, but the talent still had to be cultivated and had to be developed. So there was a culture established by men like Don Ryan, who just actually was voted in as the mayor of Hempstead. Biddy basketball programs that he had that fed the middle school and the high school programs, where kids at that level started and won national championships in biddy basketball going back to the 70s. Kids started to salivate and to expect it. The basketball piece turned with that, and we were very successful in basketball and football with Buddy Krumenack as he was the head coach. And what he established when he came, they were terrible. He came in and established the program and an expectation, and that talent was cultivated and developed, and it moved forward. So I think you have to have an approach. You have to have a philosophy of your goals and the expectations in these programs, and then with the people, because you have great teams today that don't win. I mean, if it was that easy, from a professional standpoint, you can go out and buy players in free agency and get to have fantasy football, fantasy basketball, and you should win. But it doesn't work that way. You got to be a team. If you like women's basketball or not, but when you watch what the University of Connecticut has done to be able to do that at that high level for so long, it's mind-numbing. Everybody can get good players, but the culture and the expectation and what they've developed is impressive. A common habit of wanting to win and doing the things necessary to win. It's one thing to want to win, but are you committed to doing the things to win? So do your actions align with what you say that you are? I want to say the intangibles of being committed and working hard and having high character, doing the right things right, and then doing the right things right when nobody's looking, I mean, not because I was told to do it, but you're doing it because it's the right thing to do. You want to bring young men to your campus that will come and represent themselves, their families, their schools well, and that will put the work in necessary to be successful.
The show will be right back. For related content on negotiating the world of school and sports, visit our website at fredopie.com. Check out our podcast archive and review the show on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iTunes. The best way to support the podcast is to tell a friend, share the show on Facebook and Twitter, or send them to our website at fredopie.com.
Hey folks, if you're enjoying today's show, check out the interview Fred did with former lacrosse All-American Dan Williams. Dan played at the U.S. Military Academy at West Point and was also the parent of a highly recruited college football player who was destined for the NFL before he had troubles with concussions. Here's a short clip from that episode, which is available on SoundCloud or wherever you listen to The Fred Opie Show.
For a college kid, he's going to look for the parent who, for guidance, you may express your opinion. It's going to ultimately be up to that kid to say, okay, I'm going to take my parents' advice. Or he's going to say, you know what, Mom, Dad, while I completely acknowledge what you say and I hear you, I'm still going to go out on the field one more time. 18, there's going to be very little you can do to stop him, whether you tell him to or not. My son knew how I felt. He knew I wanted him to stop, and that was also part of me sitting him down and saying, hey, what are you going to do? He knew when I said, what are you going to do? You have not made it through your concussion protocol. Ultimately, my son wanted to go to law school. I love football. I'm in love now with my new goals and aspirations, and he wanted to go to law school. And he, ultimately, once he said, you know what, I want to be a judge. At what level? The highest level he can get to. He wanted to be able to get into the best law school that he could. He goes, I need my brain to be able to do that. So he made the decision. He says, okay, well, in order to be able to do that, I need to stop now. So he stopped. He ended up, using the second half of that year to study for his LSAT. He got into 4 of the top 10, three of the top 10 law schools nationally. He ended up choosing. He's at Fulton Law School, Berkeley, finishing up his second year, doing great there, and he loves it.
Once again, that was Fred Opie's interview with former All-American lacrosse player Dan Williams. Fred and Dan speak about a lot of the same issues that you're hearing in today's episode with Reggie Terry. So if you're enjoying the show, check it out on the Fred Opie Show page on SoundCloud, iTunes, or wherever you listen to the podcast, and make sure you recommend it to a friend. Now let's get back to today's show with Reggie Terry. Enjoy.
How does a student athlete get the college experience if they have athletes' dorms, study table, training table, special meals? What is your feeling about this concept of cloistering athletes, and what is the happy medium? You and I have a student athlete, 2 of them in your household. When you're looking at programs, what do you think the right balance is between developing healthy relationship with your teammates and developing a healthy relationship with the rest of the student body? Is my question.
I think it's a great question, and it's critically important. I think it's something that really the NCAA right now is not say just wrestling with, but putting things in place to help encourage that, with time demands on student athletes, because the idea that these young men and women are employees, and you got these regimented schedules and they got to be certain places, which is true. To be good at at least to start to be really good and to be successful, there's work and things that need to be done. I think what has to happen though is that obviously you need balance. And your identity can't be rooted in, what you do. You're an athlete and a student. Now, if my identity is as a football player or a women's ice hockey player, that's going to limit, your interest in doing some things. So I think all those things are true, and those things are in place for schedule purposes with training table types of meals, or as it relates to study table with hours and time to make sure that you're here on a scholarship, that we want to give you everything that you need to be able to be successful. Because in most cases, in some of your revenue sports, if it wasn't for those athletic opportunities, you probably wouldn't be admissible into those institutions. I just think about my own experience. One of the things that I hated to do, I never wanted to wear issued gear on campus. I just
Why
didn't.
not? Why not?
I didn't want to be associated with, oh man, that's another football guy. Because, and they could pick you out because the gear that you get, nobody else on campus has unless you're a part of the team.
Swag.
Yeah, the swag. So one of the things, I made that decision early on in my academic career that, when I go to class, I'm wearing my clothes. And I might sit with my teammates from time to time, but I'm not sitting up, just with my guys and, we're in the back or wherever you are. I wanted to be identified as Reggie Terry, not just Reggie Terry, the football guy. So
did that give you any problems with your teammates?
Actually, it garnered respect. I would sit with my guys, but at the same time, if I got there first, I wouldn't sit in the back. I'd sit in the front, or sit in the middle, or sit with some people that I didn't know. I think it's critically important, not just for athletes, but all students when they get to school to experience it, to ask questions, to get out of your box. I mean,
the athlete box.
The athlete box or the fraternity box, or, if I come from a community where it's not as diverse. I mean, I knew what Hempstead was, but it took me to go away to college to kind of understand what Long Island was as it related to
the subculture that was Long Island.
The subculture was Long Island. I was totally oblivious to.
Interesting.
And going to a predominantly African American high school, I was totally oblivious to several subcultures. I had no idea of that existed. Learning about just all of these subcultures. I mean, different ethnic groups and ethnicities and religions. So it was interesting.
Do you find, as director of football operations, I can imagine some of the white players that go to Syracuse or Boston have never been around that many black folks down there on their team. What kind of dynamics happen with that?
Well, I mean, that's very true as well. I mean, just
kids coming from Pennsylvania, Ohio, Massachusetts.
Very, very true. And then I think with the demographic of people of color at different campuses, I mean, different groups are represented differently. People of color aren't necessarily as well represented. And what that interaction is. It is interesting. That's the beauty about athletics, though, because it's a team. You're there, and the common goal is to win in football, and you learn of each other. You learn of other backgrounds. You learn of other people. We can't force feed it, but you have to give the opportunity to. So when you're in class, you don't have to be in a group with only the teammates, people that who might be in that class. Or if there's some things on campus, a seminar, somebody speaking, go and expand, stretch. But it's just getting out of your comfort zone.
What are some things about great prospects that you believe that other people think you're crazy?
You have some young people that have excelled at every level. Innately just had a better talent. You can cultivate and coach and develop and improve a skill set that they have and they had a predisposition with. Now, I don't advocate to say that, if you aren't as talented or you don't have that disposition, you can't be better, you can't improve. People are different. Skill sets are different.
You said alignment is typically this tall and weighs this much. Ain't much you can do about that.
And you can have a guy that has all those measurables and those sizes, and he can be not be a good player. Whereas you can have an individual who isn't that, can play at that level, or you can have all of the above, the talent, the size, the ability, and those are the people sometimes who are your Hall of Fame guys, but then you can have Hall of Fame people, if it's in athletics or in business, that have worked and prepared and have developed themselves into a champion. But I do think certain things are innate. I think you're from a leadership standpoint, I know we talk about developing leadership and developing leaders, but I think young people too, I think some are more comfortable with that.
What are some thoughts that you have about great prospects that later on you learned was wrong?
Sometimes you can think that a great prospect has a great work ethic. The reality of it is they had great talent and ability, that they just had great talent and ability. And then you get around some of these kids and they don't know how to work. They don't know how to prepare. They don't know what it takes to really win. They've been so talented wherever they've come from, where they've gotten away with just based on their skills and their abilities and their talent. Now, when talent matches talent, what gets you over the hump? Your character, your hard work, your commitment, your perseverance. And in some regards, even without talent, those attributes can beat the talent.
Me and my wife, and the listeners that know, we're both college professors, both got doctorate degrees. The ongoing battle in the Opie house is, all the kids got to go to college. I don't believe that. I believe if a kid is gifted in a certain field that needs college, send them to college. But if the kid is gifted in another field, send them to the apprenticeship or whatever they need to do that. So in many ways, I'm also asking that question. How does all the experiences you've seen, watching your brother in that situation, all these talented kids at Hempstead, how does that shape the way you and your wife raise your kid? And by the way, Reggie married a high school sweetheart.
Yes.
So how does that affect how you guys raise your kids?
What I try to stress is that, listen, guys, mom and dad love you, but we can't do it for you. You have to be committed and invested in that process of discerning who and what you want to become. I can't create that for you. We can put the things in place, but you have to go get it, because I try to get them to understand is once you walk out of our front door, the love for Ryan Terry, Reggie Terry stops. The world could care less if you had success or if you failed. If I don't get these things together, if I don't pursue this with passion and vigor, if I don't put my best foot forward, my hopes, my dreams, the things that I want to do might not be obtained. And mom and dad can't do it for you. We can help facilitate it, but you have to understand that in life, nothing's free. Nobody's giving out free lunches, so to speak. If you don't get it done, and if you don't drive and push yourself and work and fight and scratch and do all that you can to get yourself in the situation, don't expect anybody else to. It's rough out there. You know, we live in a capitalist society, zero sum. You got winners, you got losers, you got people in the middle. You know, what are you willing to invest to be what you want to become? And that's just not as an athlete, as a person, from a faith perspective. If you have a belief that in who you are as a Christian young person, then live that life. Pursue it. That doesn't mean you're perfect, but let your speech match your action. And if you can do that, you're moving in the right direction to be able to go out and compete and do it. Because, I mean, the reality of it is everybody doesn't get a scholarship. You know, everybody won't get admitted to the schools that you want to go to. Okay. Now what? You know, adversity strikes. You know, what do I do? Well, you got to adjust and figure it out and to keep pushing, because the reality of it is nobody cares outside of your family. And if you don't love you and care about you, guess what? We're going to have problems.
Do all your kids have to go to college?
And this is how I like to describe it, from college.
And keep in mind, I know, just like my parents, your dad didn't go to college.
He went, but he didn't graduate.
Yeah, my father never graduated. Did a semester. My mother never graduated.
My mom went and didn't graduate. They left college. My dad left college after
and your father 3 years. Hard for a living.
Construction, no question. And left college to marry my mom. But my parents, especially my dad, always emphasized education. You know, it was 6 of us. It was 3 boys and 3 girls. Of the 6, 5 got college undergrad degrees. Of the 6, 3 have masters. You know, myself, I'm trying to be like yourself. I need to finish my dissertation.
He's about to get his PhD. Well, I'm putting on the air, folks. Put pressure on him.
Put pressure on me, brother. I need to get it right. You know what I'm saying? But so they pushed it. But I don't disagree with you know, your comments about, you know, if it's a trade and that kind of thing, that's great. But have that passion to qualify yourself. But the degree piece, I always looked at it like this. When I was in elementary school, you know, you want to go to the bathroom, it was this block of wood. You know, you had this hall pass, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes a hall pass, it had a chain on it with the key to the bathroom, or sometimes just a block of wood. So if you had that block of wood and the hall monitor was like, where you going? You know, you had I got my pass. You know, okay, you can go. So a degree to me is your hall pass. It gives you access. Now, what I tell kids all the time, now, even though you get this degree, that doesn't mean that you're going to be in that field. I mean, but what that allows you to do, I think it trains you, the academic training trains you how to solve problems, to work with other people, to process information. Because when you get on these jobs, these young people, and some of the danger of technology, don't know how to interact, you know, can't speak, don't know how to write, you know, can't communicate. So I think in my household is the mantra, hey, listen, you need to, you're going to do something. You
better get that hall pass.
Yeah, you get a hall pass. And if that hall pass is going to be a carpenter, go get that certificate.
Yeah.
And go work for whatever union and get going. But we've pushed the degree in education because it just gives you access to so much more. However, if you don't have that, but you have a talent or you're invested yourself in a different way, it materializes in a different manner, not a degree, but a certificate or a trade school or, have at them,
What I'm hearing you say is everybody needs a passport. It doesn't necessarily need to be a college degree.
That's right. And college degrees give you access to more, but if that more stuff is not what you want to do and you have a better idea of what you want that to be, then migrate down towards that path. I think the scary thing for us parents is that, okay, some kids say, hey, I'm going to college and I'm doing this and I come out with all these loans and I can't get a job. Now what? Yeah. That's a problem throughout America.
Yeah.
In regards to the way the system's set up, you go to these wonderful institutions, these tremendous degrees. The process of it is you're qualifying yourself, you're educating yourself, you're exposing yourself. How do I take this information and this stuff that I'm doing? How do I make it practical that it can help me? You can go to some of the finest institutions in America and still not have the success that you thought you would because, who you are as a person. I think you bring those degrees and those things to life, not the other way around. Because I went to this and that school, you got to give me a job. I think because who you are gets you the job.
Yeah.
But the degree gives you the access. Yeah. I have a niece, has a potential to be a scholarship 1A track athlete. Talk with her just from a standpoint of what the game is, the evaluation, and it's competitive, and you got to put your work in, and it's not easy. My two oldest boys are bona fide athletes. He thinks I'm really hard on them.
Your brother thinks you're too hard on him? See, my brother's the same way.
He thinks I'm hard on him, but then
he's talking you off the cliff.
He said he'll come and say, man, listen, that's when I was his age, I was doing that. You was different, but I was doing that kind of stuff. So he'll talk to him. I know what your dad is, but listen, you need to do these things to keep coming along.
And it's probably the work ethic part.
The work ethic piece. He tells my kids this story. I go off to Syracuse. And I come back home and he's saying, I want to play. I want to go to the NBA and do this. All right, man. I say, listen, let's go out and work out. Let's go out for a run. He's a sophomore in high school. So I come home and we go to a trail. So I said, all right, man, you ready? He said, yeah, I'm ready. So we get out there and we're running. It was basically like a 3.5 mile course. Nothing too heavy, but it had peaks and valleys and mountains.
Had some Walter Payton hills?
Yeah, it had some hills. So we get out there and he running with me. And he started to slow down. So come on, man, you got to push it through now. So he's hurting. He's laboring. I remember it, but he tells the story much better than I. So he says, I turn around and say, listen, man, you're not ready yet. You're not committed. And I leave him. I'm going to get my run in. So I left him and then I passed him on the way back. So Tim, he would go and he tells my kids, he says, man, listen, to this day, he said, what I learned that day was what I thought I wanted to do and what I was committed to were two different things.
Tim's work ethic changed.
He would say it changed when he realized that, hey, I want to do what my brother's doing, and I can't even finish this little run. He was always talented, but then he said, well, listen, maybe I need to lift weights a little bit. Well, maybe, Brad, what are you guys doing at Syracuse? So
let me see your workout sheet.
Yeah, I want to come to football camp. Can I come up? So whenever I was home, we worked out together. The other thing, and he will tell you this as well, he used to say I was rough on him. My brother was a lacrosse goalie. The first
I remember.
He was a goalie, and he was playing on the teams when with Mr. Hodish and those teams. On his games on Sunday afternoons, I would take him out and I would warm him up. He said, Reg, man, you used to try to kill me. I said, no, man, I was just trying to get you ready to play. Those things, and you have no idea as a sibling or even with people that you work with, the impact that you have on their lives. And you're just trying to do what you think is best and pushing them and wanting the best from them. But he would say those experiences really helped cultivate and build and develop what he wanted to become as an athlete.
I don't think most high school athletes understand the work and commitment it takes to play at the college level at any level, D3, D1, D2.
Yeah.
And I think for me, you're right. I saw a guy from my hometown who made it. He was so much better shape than the average kid from my town. He was so much more committed to working and practicing. that it really is difficult to go from a fantasy, which most of our kids are doing computer games, and they're looking at fantasy, and you're looking at reality.
Yeah.
And you're trying to translate to them, this is what it takes.
Yeah.
Who was the person that was pushing you?
This is what happened. I was in 5th grade. I was in a homecoming parade. At the end of that homecoming parade, I stayed with my school group and watched the game. Hempstead was playing Sewanaka High School. Vinny Testaverde actually was a Sewanaka went to Sewanaka kid, was very successful, as you know. But I was watching the game. I was like in awe. In 5th grade, I want to play that. My first organized sport was in 5th grade, and I played lacrosse. What was good about it was just the competes and just understanding how to work within a team and to compete against other kids, and it was okay. The thing that I never forgot, and it's a simple drill, with kids, it was a ground ball drill. You got 2 kids, you roll the ball out, go get it.
Yeah, yeah.
Just the fact that I got the ball, I did it. It built upon that. I started to kind of crave it. But that's what happened for me. 5th grade, I saw that and I said, whatever it took, I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to play and I wanted to be good. I worked at it. Very thankful, I'm blessed to have the opportunity to go to school. And
does it seem a little surreal to you, the stuff that you're doing now and able to do? Or
yeah, I'm thankful. I get paid well. I have a wonderful job, but it doesn't feel like work. My son's going to Boston College. He's going to play football and be a student athlete. And
boy, that must feel.
It's exciting. It's exciting, and I'm happy for him because he's a good boy. He's worked hard.
Is he bigger than you already?
He's taller.
Okay.
He's taller. Tell all my sons, though, let's be sure before they want to grab old dad, they need to be ready. I'm 46 now. I got some things left in the tank, to put your kids in position to do the things that, your hopes and dreams for them, just because you want to give them a chance to do the things they want to do. If it's, play ball and get a tremendous education, that's great. I want to earn a scholarship. I want to play. Okay, be careful, because if you say those things, then I'm gonna try to hold you accountable to what the expectation is. Even for our kids, say, hey, I want, we can say, hey, I want to go to college, but hey, listen, I see you on a Thursday night.
Hello.
My homework's done, but okay, pick up a book, get on the internet, read something, do something. Opposed to. And it's a time to relax and a time to do some things, but at the same time, the amount of effort and the commitment to be really good and to have the success that you want, athletically, academically, artistically, you got to put in the work. The 10,000 hours of, you want to be an expert, the mantra of 10,000 hours invested in that.
This man does this professionally. He's done it at the collegiate level. He's done it at the professional level. His brother does this professionally. Plenty of reason not to listen to me, because I don't do this professionally. I'm a college professor. I'm a humble parent, a humble youth coach. This man is looking and doling out scholarships. Every year, how many scholarships do you all hand out?
Depending on the on average, at least 15 to 16, they talk about full scholarships. And some years as many as, 22, 23, 24. Of our incoming 17 kids are already committed. They signed their nationals letter of intent the first Wednesday of February. You simultaneously recruit 2 classes. So, wow. The 18 kids we've been recruiting going into 2000 and we're going into the 2006, 2017 academic year. So we've been tracking these guys, and by the time,
So how big is your pool like right now?
Right now, our pool for 2018, I want to say we've probably evaluated, about 700 to 800 players.
All right, and when will you get it down to the number of 50 or something?
Once we get through this June, we know by position the players that we're interested in. Then we know by area where they're from. We have a pool right now that, we're looking at. It's probably legitimately guys that we've offered right around 150 guys.
150 guys.
For
next year's class.
For next year's class. And then as we get through the month of June, we have so many spots, and young men will commit, and decide to come. And then, hey, listen, we've offered these 150, 200 kids, and we got 15 spots, 16 spots.
And so it's really pressure on them to tell you as soon as possible.
As soon as possible, and they have other options. So we might be chasing them down, but they have other options with other institutions as well. So just be confident of what you have, because if you wait too long, sometimes,
snooze, you lose.
Snooze, you lose.
In lacrosse, U.S. Lacrosse last month magazine came out with a story of kids as young as 8th grade. I mean, as you know, you have kids who haven't even stepped on a varsity team at their high school, and they're getting offers and pressure to make verbal commitments. Is the nature of the genetics of football such that that's not happening that young? How young are you all saying to a kid, I need a verbal commitment?
Yeah. Believe it or not, it's picking up in football. You have some offers that is slung out to kids who are in 8th grade. Actually,
in 8th grade as well.
Well, Leonard Fournette, the big running back that's coming out of LSU this year, was almost like a prodigy, if you will. He was as big and talented probably that he is now as he is then. He was one of the first guys that had offers in football in 8th grade, Alabama, LSU, and obviously was a wonderful player. He's most likely going to be one of the first running backs taken. And commitment doesn't mean that, at that level, you got 4 years of high school left to play. Some schools will offer kids very early with what they hope and potentially can be.
9th grade?
9th grade. And they can offer. That doesn't mean that's going to be valid by the time you're a senior. And it's not binding. So
how many the decommits, is that quite common that you're finding now?
It's common.
And you all are not offended when a kid decommits?
Yeah, well, our approach to it is that when we offer, and get into a relationship with a young man, it's a process. So the hope is that when you say that you want to come, you're saying that, hey, listen, I'm coming.
This is a commitment.
This is a commitment, and we believe that. And I think it's important just for young people now. It's a day and age in which kids commit to schools, and then schools commit to kids and then back away. Before that was really not really seen.
The schools would not back away.
Right. But
now it's starting to happen.
Oh, yeah. They found a player that might be better, or they might tell that player something differently, but the reality of it is they're playing, to try to get the best guys they want to get. But how we operate and what we like to do, when a young man, we often a young man commits, we're going to abide by that.
Sounds like increasingly it's becoming a wild, wild west.
Parents need to pump the brakes in regards to that, in regards to, hey, listen, my kid is a 5-star guy and he should have this school and that school. Let the process take care of itself. Do all you can to put your child in the best possible situation where he can be in position to earn and to receive an athletic scholarship.
And don't take for granted if you get an offer, don't sit there and play cute.
Yeah, because the reality of it is before that national signing day, before you actually start on the dotted line, there's some things that you need to assess and evaluate. Why you go to a school, not because I like the helmets and the uniform and they're Nike opposed to Under Armour. Let's make it on some substance. The people, the education, comfort level that you have with being at that school.
I love Reggie's story about the football player, guy that never played football in high school until sounds like his last year, the year and a half. He switches from soccer to football. There are people like that in lacrosse. I hear people say, well, your kid's got to start playing this game, and he's in 3rd, 2nd grade if he ever wants to get a chance to play in his high school team. That is straight up not true. If you're a great athlete, you're going to pick up whatever sport it is and you're going to excel. Some of this is straight up genetics. A lot of it is hard work. He says to parents that you put your kid in position and then you let the child take over. And it's up to them. You better have your act together off the field, because coaches who are going to be expending money on you if they offer you a scholarship want to make sure that you're not a knucklehead.
Thanks again for listening to the show. I love giving talks on the topic of school and sports. For more information, email the show at fdopie@gmail.com. Once again, that's fdopie@gmail.com. You can also contact us if you're interested in advertising on the show. The best way to support the podcast is to tell a friend, share the show on Facebook and Twitter, or send them to our website at fredopie.com. Thanks for listening, and be good.